Leo, let's get straight to the point. Your name is in someone's will, and it's not just anyone. It's from a person you probably don't even know. And what they left behind has the power to completely change your life. Now, before you scroll away or roll your eyes, just breathe for a moment. Because if you're watching this right now, it's not random. Something bigger than both of us led you here. This message found you because the energy around your sign right now is shifting, and the universe is finally putting you in a position to receive something you didn't even ask for but deeply deserve. I'm not here to throw around predictions or tell you what you want to hear. I'm here to talk to you like someone who's been in this space for a long time, reading energy, watching cosmic patterns unfold, and helping people like you understand what's really going on beneath the surface. This reading started like any other. But when I pulled the combination of Wheel of Fortune, 10 of Pentacles, and Justice, I stopped. This wasn't symbolic. This wasn't vague. This was legal. This was real. This was someone's final wishes with your name on it. What's wild is that this person isn't a close friend, isn't a relative you talk to daily. It's someone whose connection to you is deeper than familiarity. It's spiritual. It's karmic. And it might trace back to a story you've never been told, a rift in your family, a hidden bond, or a quiet observer who saw something in you that reminded them of who they once were. Whatever it is, they made a choice. And that choice is about to land in your hands. But here's the thing I need you to understand right now: this isn't just about the money. Sure, it might be in the form of cash, property, or investments. But what you're really inheriting is a shift. A new sense of value. A different kind of security. And for someone like you who spent so much of life trying to earn every ounce of success through effort and endurance, this moment can feel both thrilling and uncomfortable. I know how you are. You've been the one holding it together for everyone else. You give and give, often wondering when something will finally circle back to you. And now, when it does, your first instinct might be to doubt it, question it, or wonder what you did to deserve it. That's normal. That's human. Especially for a Leo whose pride often masks how deeply they long to feel seen and chosen. This message is here to remind you, you are not forgotten. You are not invisible. And this isn't a fluke. I don't care how unexpected this feels or how unreal it sounds. It's real enough for the universe to send it to you now. And your only job in this moment is to decide whether or not you're ready to receive it. So if you're feeling this message, if it's hitting somewhere deep in your gut or stirring something in your chest, take a second and write it below. I accept this energy as mine. Claim it. Anchor it. Let it be heard. And please don't click away just yet. Stay with me through the rest of this video, because what I'm about to share next will give you the clarity, timing, and inner tools you need to handle what's coming. And trust me, Leo, it's not small. Let me also say thank you, sincerely, for being here. Your presence, your energy, your support, every like, every comment, every subscribe builds this channel into the healing space it's meant to be. Eternal mindfulness is more than content, it's a community. And the fact that you're here, right now, at this very moment, tells me that you're not just a viewer. You're a part of something bigger. Your family. Let's keep going. Because what's waiting for you on the other side of this message might just be the biggest turning point of your life. Leo, the moment I drew those 3 cards, Wheel of Fortune, Ten of Pentacles, and Justice. I knew we weren't looking at just another prediction. This wasn't about minor changes or general energy shifts. This was bigger. The kind of shift that marks the end of one life chapter and the beginning of a completely different one. And when I say your name is in a will, I mean it not just literally, but energetically. Something powerful, written in silence and sealed in time, is now making its way to you. And no, it's not random. There are moments in our lives when the energy around us gets so loud it starts to speak in the language of signs, synchronicities, and sudden opportunities. This is one of those moments. Whether it's through bloodline or soul line, someone who was connected to your story has chosen you quietly, intentionally, and with more meaning than you might ever fully understand. You didn't ask for this. You didn't chase it. But you were seen. And you were chosen. We often think of inheritances as material transfers. But in my years of studying cosmic patterns, I've learned that inheritance is just another form of divine trust. It's not just about wealth. It's about responsibility. About cycles. About unseen promises being fulfilled through you. And in this case, Leo, someone who once watched your light from afar, or remembered the strength of your spirit, is now honoring that connection, leaving behind something physical that carries emotional weight. Let's talk about the energy of the cards themselves. The Wheel of Fortune isn't about luck in the superficial sense. It's the turning of divine timing. The shifting of fate when it's finally your turn. The Ten of Pentacles is legacy, not just money, but history, healing, and a new foundation being passed to you. And Justice? That tells me this isn't accidental. It's lawful, yes, but it's also karmic. It's earned, maybe not through your hands, but through your presence in someone's life even if you didn't know it. In numerology, the number 10 marks both a completion and a beginning. It says, the old has fulfilled its purpose. Now step forward. And if you're feeling a bit overwhelmed by that, good. That's what real expansion feels like. It's not always comfortable, but it's deeply real. You might not know this person by name, or you may only have heard their story in passing. But the truth is, your connection wasn't built through conversation. It was built through energy, through observation, maybe even through admiration. Someone may have seen in you what they once wished they could be. Or maybe they were the missing piece in a generational story that was waiting to be healed through you. Either way, the result is the same: the torch is being passed. The legacy is shifting. And your name is carved on the door that's finally about to open. What I want you to reflect on right now is this: can you let yourself receive without guilt? Without overthinking it? Can you accept that sometimes we are blessed not because we checked all the boxes, but because someone else, somewhere in time, decided that we were the right person to carry something forward? Your job now is not to figure out why. Your job is to say yes. To hold the moment. To trust that the life you're about to enter is not a mistake or a test, it's a return. A return to something your soul has been ready for longer than your mind can comprehend. If any part of you feels this message, don't keep it in your head. Put it into action. Say it with me, even silently: I accept this inheritance, material, spiritual, emotional, as mine. And if you feel safe doing so, write it in the comments below. That declaration alone can unlock more than you realize. This isn't just a will on paper. This is a cosmic signature acknowledging who you are, what you've endured, and what you're now ready to step into. Stay with me, Leo, this is just the beginning. The next part will reveal the timing, the signs to look for, and what to do when this message finds its way into your physical life. You'll want to be ready. What happens when something you've never expected suddenly arrives in your life legally, officially, and undeniably real? That's the kind of moment we're talking about now, Leo. A moment that doesn't knock politely. It shows up with documents, signatures, and names, yours being one of them. This is not a symbolic blessing. It's a literal transfer of wealth, property, or assets that someone, possibly a stranger in life, but not in spirit, has chosen to entrust to you. And the moment you receive that phone call, letter, or email from a law office, I need you to remember what I'm saying to you right now. Because your first instinct might be confusion. Maybe even suspicion. That's human. We've all been taught to be cautious, to look out for scams or tricks. And to be honest, some skepticism is healthy. But not everything that looks surprising is a trap. Sometimes, it's grace disguised as paperwork. So when the contact comes, pause. Don't panic. Don't tell yourself it must be a mistake. Instead, breathe. Verify. Reach out to a trusted attorney, someone who has no connection to the source. Someone whose only job is to protect your interests and help you understand what's really being offered. I want to be clear, this isn't just a financial event. It's a turning point in how you relate to receiving. And for someone like you, who's used to earning every blessing through sweat and persistence, receiving without asking can feel unsettling. That's why I want to invite you to shift your inner position. This isn't about taking. It's about being open. There's a difference between chasing after money and allowing it to come to you through aligned channels. Right now, that channel is opening. But only if you choose to stand still and let it reach you. The law of attraction is often misunderstood as a wishing game. It's not. It's about resonance. When you step into gratitude, when you show the universe that you are ready to honor a gift not with guilt, but with grounded responsibility, that's when the flow increases. That's when more doors open. And I believe this inheritance, no matter the form or the amount, is the universe's way of saying, you've held the line long enough. Now it's time to be supported. If you've never had someone give you something this meaningful before, it may bring up discomfort. But I want you to recognize it for what it is, an invitation to trust yourself with more. Not to hoard it. Not to broadcast it. But to care for it wisely. That's why I'm asking you, very gently, to keep this private at first. Share only with people who truly have your best interests at heart. And even then, hold it with care. Wealth, especially unexpected wealth, shifts relationships. Let your inner world settle before making any announcements. And when you're ready, I invite you to affirm this moment with a simple declaration that has power far beyond its words. Say it aloud or type it below. I accept my inheritance with gratitude. Write it not just as a comment, but as an energetic anchor. Not to convince anyone else, but to show yourself that you're no longer the person who doubts when good things arrive. Receiving well is a form of wisdom. Managing it well is a form of maturity. But allowing it in with full presence, that is transformation. That is healing. And you're more than ready, Leo. You've done the inner work. Now let life meet you halfway. Stay with me because next, we'll explore how to navigate the emotional waves that come after this kind of breakthrough. Because yes, even blessings can feel heavy when they carry history, memory, or unfinished stories. But don't worry, we'll walk through that part together. What's unfolding for you now, Leo, is not just a legal transaction or a windfall, it's the energetic equivalent of being handed a new key. And this key doesn't just open a bank vault, it unlocks a version of yourself you may have forgotten while trying to survive. If you've always associated security with struggle, or value with how much effort you put in, this moment might feel confusing. But confusion is natural when the universe shifts in your favor without asking you to prove yourself first. In astrology, Leo is ruled by the sun, the center of our solar system, the force that gives without asking for anything in return. And yet, many Leos carry the weight of always having to show up, shine, protect, provide. So when someone offers something back to you not in exchange for your efforts, but simply because you exist, it can feel disorienting, even vulnerable. But here's where energy work, cosmic law, and inner healing intersect. The kind of blessing that's coming to you, whether it's an inheritance, a surprise financial release, or a long-delayed opportunity, is not just a payout. It's a form of rebalancing. Justice, when it shows up in a reading, is never just about right versus wrong. It's about alignment. It's the universe saying, now is the time to redistribute the weight. To correct the imbalance. To return to you what was always meant to support you. This isn't charity. This isn't luck. This is energetic reciprocity. The same way the Earth keeps circling the sun, your light has been orbiting a space that's finally sending something back. And that exchange isn't always verbal. Sometimes, it arrives through quiet Chanel's lawyer's message, a phone call from a firm you don't recognize, a letter that doesn't make sense at first. But just because the channel is unfamiliar doesn't mean the blessing isn't real. And here's where a deeper layer comes in. Most people think they'll celebrate when something like this happens. But often, the first reaction is resistance. You might minimize it. Dismiss it. Question it. That's normal. When we're used to doing life the hard way, receiving without a fight can feel suspicious. But this is where trust starts, not in others, but in your own readiness to allow something good to land without defending it, explaining it, or feeling guilty for it. Energetically, this kind of moment asks something of you. Not hustle. Not explanation. But expansion. Can you expand into the version of yourself that receives with grace, not fear? Can you allow your nervous system to relax into the truth that not every blessing has to be earned in pain? Because if you can, this isn't just about one inheritance, it's about shifting your entire relationship with abundance, safety, and worth. And no, it doesn't mean you'll suddenly become someone who expects handouts or lives in fantasy. It means you start choosing from a place of peace, not pressure. You invest wisely. You spend slowly. You anchor your new reality with care. You take time to understand what you've received, not just on paper, but on a soul level. And maybe, just maybe, you let this moment begin to rewrite the story you've been carrying about what you're allowed to have. If your heart feels tight when you think about receiving, that's a sign it's time to open. If your mind races with doubt, it's because a deeper belief is trying to break through. You don't have to force it. Just breathe. Sit with it. Acknowledge what's real. And when you're ready, whisper this to yourself: I give myself permission to receive with trust and gratitude. Then type it in the comments below if it feels right to you. You never know who else needs to hear it and what new energy you'll unlock just by saying yes. When something valuable is placed into your hands, especially when it's unexpected, it doesn't just change your life. It can also shake the stories others have built around what they think you deserve. And unfortunately, Leo, not everyone in your orbit will celebrate this shift. The cards were clear about that. When the Five of Swords and the Seven of Swords show up together, we're not just talking about jealousy or discomfort. We're talking about strategic resistance. Pushback that's intentional. Manipulations dressed up as concerns. Legal or emotional attempts to discredit what's already been decided. You see, people often assume that when something good happens, everyone will clap for you. But the truth is, blessings stir up old dynamics, especially in families, friendships, and past relationships. Your receiving might trigger someone else's sense of lack. Your elevation may expose someone else's bitterness. And while you are not responsible for how others feel, it's important to be prepared for what may come. Here's what I need you to remember: you didn't take anything from anyone. This was not about favoritism or influence. You didn't manipulate the situation, and you didn't have to. What's being passed to you was aligned long before any of these people formed an opinion. Whether it was written in a will, woven through karma, or whispered through time, it's already yours. All you're doing now is receiving what has been waiting for you. That's not theft. That's divine timing. But let's be honest. Being in the right doesn't always feel powerful when you're under scrutiny. When others start questioning your worthiness or accusing you of things you never even considered, it can shake even the strongest heart. Especially for someone like you, who values honor, loyalty, and clarity. That's why your energy in this season must be calm and rooted. Don't let someone else's chaos pull you out of alignment. Protect what's yours. Not just legally, but energetically. If you haven't already, secure a trusted attorney who can speak on your behalf when the time comes. Not because you expect trouble, but because your peace is too valuable to be spent arguing. Let someone else handle the noise so you can stay focused on integrating what's ahead. Your role isn't to prove your worth. Your role is to embody it. And emotionally, this part matters too. Give yourself space to grieve what you thought these relationships were. Sometimes the hardest part isn't defending the gift. It's realizing who won't be happy for you. Let yourself feel that. You don't need to push it away or make excuses for their behavior. You are allowed to be sad, even angry, that something good has created distance. But don't let that grief undo the gift. You didn't ask to be chosen. But now that you are, you must rise to meet it. And part of that rise is knowing that opposition does not define you. It reveals them. If you're feeling that tension already, or if you know deep down that someone will try to challenge your right to receive, don't wait in fear. Declare your presence. Ground your energy. Type it below if it resonates with you. I protect what is mine with integrity. Let those words be your shield, not against people but against self-doubt. Because you don't need to defend this moment to anyone but yourself. And when the storm passes, and it will, you'll be standing taller, clearer, and freer. Not just because you held on to what was given, but because you refused to shrink to make others more comfortable with your light. You are still Leo. And this chapter will not dim you. It will define you. Once the noise around you begins to settle, and the external questions fade, what you're left with is something far more personal, your own relationship to the blessing itself. Not the reactions. Not the legal formalities. Just the gift. Just you. And this is where the real work begins. Because what you've inherited isn't just material. The cards say it clearly: Ace of Pentacles, Four of Wands, Six of Cups. This is a seed of new life. A moment that has the power to reroute your path, not just financially, but emotionally, energetically, and even generationally. This energy feels like a door gently creaking open after years of being locked. And on the other side of that door isn't just security, it's permission. Permission to let go of survival mode. Permission to build a life from stability, not scarcity. Permission to stop apologizing for wanting more. You've spent so much time working, giving, proving. Now, you're being handed something that says, start again. But this time, start from a place of abundance. And that's not always easy to sit with. Especially for someone like you, who's wired for resilience. When you're used to earning everything you have, receiving without effort can stir up all kinds of feelings: guilt, doubt, even fear of judgment. That's why Jupiter's expansion in your second house right now is so powerful. It's inviting you to stretch your sense of worth. To stop measuring value by how hard something is to obtain, and instead to ask, what could I do, who could I be, if I no longer had to hustle for my worth? This is the part that's personal, private, and precious. It's why I encourage you not to share too quickly. When something this sacred arrives, it needs time to settle inside you before it can be safely named aloud. You don't owe anyone an explanation. You don't need to prove why you were chosen. And not everyone will be capable of celebrating with you, not because they're bad, but because they're not in the same season of their life. So choose your confidants wisely. Share with those who have shown up for you without conditions. And even then, protect the roots of what's now growing. This is the time to plant with intention. If you've been carrying debt, clear it. If you've never had an emergency fund, build one. If you've longed for a home that reflects who you truly are, start making that real. Use a portion of what you've received to invest in your future, not just to escape your past. Take courses. Support your healing. Make your space sacred. And when the impulse rises to give it all away, ask yourself gently, am I sharing from overflow? Or from a place that still feels empty? Let generosity be an act of joy, not a reflex for guilt. Most importantly, please hear this, you don't have to justify receiving something good. You're not taking from anyone. You're not stealing the spotlight. You're just allowing the universe to complete a promise it once whispered over your name. And if parts of you still resist that, that's okay too. Healing isn't linear. Worthiness isn't earned, it's remembered. Let this be the moment you start remembering yours. And if this message resonates in your chest, not just in your mind, write it below. Say, I allow this new beginning to grow through me. Let the words take root. Let yourself be the fertile soil. Because this isn't just money. It's a restoration. It's a return to a self you buried beneath responsibility. And it's time to come home. Quietly. Boldly. Fully. After the dust settles and the emotions soften, there's a quiet space that opens up. A space where your new reality begins to take shape, not just in your bank account or your calendar, but in your nervous system, your breath, your choices. And this is where the real freedom begins. Not the kind you shout about, but the kind that moves through your body like a deep exhale after holding your breath for too many years. Let's talk about your relationship with money first. Because receiving a blessing is one thing, knowing how to hold it, grow it, and respect it is another. This is where you begin thinking long-term. I often encourage people to approach abundance through the lens of 3 baskets: what you use, what you protect, and what you grow. The first is your daily life, living with presence, not guilt. The second is your safety net, your peace fund, not your panic fund. And the third is where you let your money work for you, slowly and wisely. You don't need to do anything dramatic. You don't need to prove you're smart or generous or financially perfect. You just need to be deliberate. Think of this new phase as a garden. You wouldn't dump all the seeds into one spot and hope for the best. You'd spread them, water them, watch them, tend to them. That's how this inheritance, whether it came through paper or purpose, wants to be handled. You're not being tested. You're being trusted. But trust comes with new sensations, and one of them might surprise you: tension. Yes, even good things can feel heavy. When you're used to struggling or always pushing, the stillness that comes with stability can be unfamiliar. You may feel more tired. You may feel more emotional. That's okay. The body often holds stress even after the circumstances change. So take care of yourself gently. Try light movement like stretching or soft yoga. Drink water. Take walks without your phone. Magnesium can help ease tension in the muscles and mind. And remember, joy is not something to earn, it's something to allow. Now let's talk about your heart. Because a shift in one area of life always ripples into others. If love has felt distant or strained lately, this new beginning may create space where it once felt too tight. You might find yourself more open to connection or more honest about what kind of love you actually want. If someone new appears, let it unfold naturally. Don't rush to define it. Let your energy adjust. And if you're already in a relationship, don't be afraid to let your partner see the new layers of you that are rising to the surface. You're allowed to evolve in front of them. Love flows more freely when we aren't carrying silent burdens. Now that some of those weights have been lifted, let your heart breathe again. Speak gently. Laugh often. Don't overthink how you're supposed to show up, just show up as you are. That's where intimacy lives. And if you're wondering about the signs around you, look to the color emerald green. This isn't just a color of money. It's the color of legacy, of repair, of growth after the storm. When you see it in a leaf, a piece of clothing, a stone, take it as a quiet nod from the universe. You're on the right path. The number 8 may also start appearing in clocks, receipts, license plates. It's the infinity loop turned upright. A reminder that what flows from you will return, and what is meant for you will never miss you. This part of your life doesn't have to be loud. It just has to be real. You've stepped into a new cycle not because you were lucky, but because you were ready. Now it's time to live like someone who finally remembers what it means to be free. And if you feel that, even just a little bit, write it below. I choose to live in peace, abundance, and truth. Say it not to impress me, but to hear it in your own voice. That alone can shift everything. You didn't find this video by accident. This message found you. Maybe it whispered to you through an unexplainable feeling. Maybe it showed up after a long day when your heart needed reassurance. Or maybe it arrived the moment you were finally ready to stop surviving and start receiving. However it reached you, this moment is sacred. And it's yours. Because this isn't just about being named in a will. It's about being named in something far greater. You're not simply being given money, you're being handed a permission slip to live as your highest self. To stop settling. To stop carrying what was never yours to hold. And to finally ask, without shame, what do I really want to do with my life now that I have options? The truth is, you've always been powerful. But now, you're also positioned. Positioned to choose your next chapter from a place of clarity, not fear. To say yes to yourself without needing to explain it. To give, not from depletion, but from fullness. And maybe even to rest, knowing that you don't have to carry everyone anymore. So I want to ask you, if nothing was holding you back, what would you allow yourself to dream into being? If you could release the guilt, the fear, the voice that says, you have to earn it, what would you do with what's been placed in your hands? And can you believe, even if only for a moment, that this blessing didn't come to test you, but to free you? Write this in the comments if it resonates. I am worthy of my sacred inheritance. Say it not just for yourself, but for every part of you that has ever been told to shrink, to wait, to stay small. Because when you claim what is truly yours, you're not only healing yourself, you're healing the ones who came before you. And you're clearing the path for those who will come after. Thank you for staying with me through this journey. Your presence here matters more than you know. Every like, every comment, every subscription to this channel, Eternal Mindfulness, is a seed planted into a garden of awakening souls. You are part of a community now. And I see you. I honor you. And I am so grateful you chose to be here. If this message touched something in you, don't keep it to yourself. Share this video with another Leo who might be walking through doubt, resistance, or transition. You never know how much a single word of hope can change someone's direction. And as you step forward, remember this: you were not just chosen, you are also the one who chooses. This gift is real. But what you do with it, that's where the miracle begins. May the door that has been waiting for you since lifetimes ago finally open wide. And may you walk through it with your head high, your heart grounded, and your spirit free. You are ready. I'll be here watching the stars with you. Until next time.